Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. If you're, this is a meeting of the Standards Committee. The rules are much the same as any public meeting. If you're on Teams, could you please turn your camera off unless you're speaking? Thank you. And while you're in the chamber, unless you're medically excused, you should be wearing your mask. Thank you. Unless, of course, you wish to speak, in which case it's a good. I just said if you're medically exempt, you don't have to wear your mask. Thank you very much. Okay, apologies.
Jackie Rance and Roy Mantell, and Sheena Matthews is joining on Teams, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, minutes of the previous meeting. I assume everybody, yes.
I felt that page 7, the bullet immediately before the resolution, was slightly misrepresented, the context. On the second line, it says it would be useful for the committee to understand common themes. I believe that was actually suggested for councillors that were receiving the training. So all councillors, not specifically this committee. I think we're quite comfortable with having a fairly good idea of what's covered, but it was for the training. So I just thought that could be updated, please.
Okay.
Unless anyone disagrees.
Does everybody agree with that interpretation of the rules? We have such busy lives, I'm afraid. Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, if you're telling me that you believe we agree,
I'm fairly sure I was the one who suggested it, so yes.
Yes. Okay, well, is nobody objecting to it? Okay, so can I have a show of hands for the? Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any declarations of interest? We're all councillors, so I guess we have an interest in standards. So, but, any specific declaration? No, thank you very much. Public question time. Thank you. Member question time. Thank you. Parish and Town Council. Okay. Okay. The next thing is item number 30, which is on page 9 to 14, which is an update on complaints. I believe, unfortunately, Andrew's got COVID, so he's not with us. Are you stepping in for him, Jenny?
I am, Chair, yes.
Thank you. Would you like to just give us an update on complaints?
Yeah, I've been briefed by Andrew with an update on the complaints. So I'll start with the new complaints, which are at page 13 of your report. So since the last report to committee back in January, there's been one new complaint which was received on the 10th of March 2022. This was raised by a member of the public against a Woking and Borough Council member regarding an alleged failure to respond to an inquiry from the public. Having reviewed the details of the complaint and conducted an initial review, it was found by the monitoring officer that there was no evidence to support the finding of any breach. The councillor and complainant have both been informed of the outcome, so there's no further action on this complaint. There's
Can I just ask, very quickly before you move on, have the resident and the member been reconciled, or is it still open?
As far as I'm aware, they've been informed of the outcome by Andrew.
But has he or they solved the problem?
I don't have any further information on that one, I'm afraid. I'd have to speak to Andrew about that. Okay,
well, if we could just get Andrew to drop us all a line to tell us whether or not that's been resolved. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. There's one open unresolved complaint which was submitted on the 29th of November 2021. So that is the Walgrave Parish Council member. Following an initial review of the complaint by the monitoring officer, it was determined that an investigation was required. That investigation has now concluded, and the completed investigation report has been submitted to the monitoring officer. on the 21st of March. And the monitoring officer is currently considering the next steps on that one. So no further update in terms of outcome, but the investigation has concluded.
Thank you.
The complaints over on page 14 are historic complaints, and I haven't been given any specific update to provide on any of these, but I've looked at the two reports, so between the report from the previous meeting, and I can see that in relation to the complaint dated the 16th of the 9th, 2021, this one has now been referred to the subject member's party. In relation to the one July 2021, following a consultation meeting, it was determined by the monitoring officer that there was no breach in relation to this complaint, and that was concluded on the 22nd of February 2022. With regards to the complaint on the 21st of December 2020, this was concluded, but now appears to have been reopened as a result of the councillor involved having failed to apologise for his conduct as had been previously agreed. And in relation to the complaint dated the 14th of December 2020, this has also been referred to the subject member's party. And that concludes all of the complaints set out within the report, Chair.
Thank you, Jenny. Are there any questions? Sally.
Thank you. The 21st of December one that's been reopened, I think that status is the same as it was in our last meeting. I appreciate you probably don't have more of an update at the moment, but could that also go on the list for maybe Andrew to give us a couple of lines in an email?
Yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Prue.
Thank you. It's not exactly related to the complaint, but if I don't bring it up here, I won't be able to bring it up. I find it confusing that we have to refer to the complaints by the dates on which they were submitted. And I'm wondering if, starting from the next municipal year, we could have a complaints numbering system. And I'm thinking about maybe starting with B if it's about a borough councillor, and P or PT if it's about a parish or town councillor, and then number them sequentially, and then we'll always know which complaint it is. Does that sound like a reasonable suggestion?
Reasonable request. Everybody in favour of that? Yeah, that will go through as a request to, if you can make a note of that, Jenny, and Andrew can do that. He probably does have them noted with some sort of number, I guess. We could just have it on the documentation. Abdul.
Make a note of that.
So the answer has been given.
Okay, right. Was there any more questions with regards to our open? No? Yes, Sally.
Sorry, just one more question. What are we expecting as an outcome from referring the complaints to the subject member's party?
Who knows?
Is that effectively where we have reached the limit of our ability to handle things, or is there?
No, it's the ability of where we've reached the point where the person is not cooperating at all. We just need them to either put pressure and suggest that or tell us that they're not going to do it. We've got nowhere else to go with it, unfortunately.
So I guess the question would then be, if we don't get movement or a satisfactory outcome from this, would it go straight to a presumption of finding of a breach of code of conduct and would be published, or would it go to a hearing, or where does it go from here if this doesn't work?
Well, and first of all, if it does work and they are prepared to cooperate, we obviously will go to some form of decide whether or not it needs to go to an investigation. Okay, if that investigation then ends up, if it doesn't cooperate, I guess that what we will do is probably write to them and suggest that if they don't want to make a comment, we will make a judgment on the basis of not having the evidence, so they lose their right to speak, if you like. There's no other way we can deal with it. I mean, it's like in any court of law. If somebody refuses to comment, You just have to go on the evidence that's in front of you.
Good. I was hoping it wasn't just going to kind of go
No,
away.
no.
So thank you for covering that.
We
Do we
can't-
have a timeline when that would?
Well,
happen?
again, I mean, and unfortunately, Andrew's off at the moment. It was a question I was going to ask him this morning when I learned he was off with COVID. So
Maybe that can go on the list of questions for
again-
Andrew then.
another question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ruth.
Sorry, something else has now occurred to me. When it says referred to the subject members party, who in the subject members party do you refer it to? Do we know? Is it the leader of the group on that particular council, or is it somebody more senior or some
No,
other?
it would be. I understand. I'm not 100% that it's be referred to regional, the regional authority of the party, not because we've tried to be nice about it and say, look, you know, come and stand and give your views and tell us what you think, and we can come up with a reasonable conclusion. But we've passed that point. In fact, I've written it to us and said, you make the rules up as you go along. So there's not really much you can do about that, unfortunately. Yes, sorry, Sheena.
Chair, I just wondered what is the case if the person is an independent and doesn't belong to a party?
Well, again, the same thing would have. We have the same procedure, with the exception of the referring it to the regional party office, would occur. So we would say to the person, look, you can come along. If you don't come along, we will make a judgment and you won't be here. It will be made in absentia. So basically, if you're found guilty, or that's the wrong word, guilty, but if you're found in breach, unfortunately, they don't start coming back, because we're giving you the opportunity to put your case. If you feel that you've got a just case and you feel that you're being picked on, or it isn't, what's being alleged isn't correct, you need to stand up and, you know, what can you do? I mean, I would hope most people would act reasonably, and they will either say, look, I agree what you're saying, or I don't agree with what you're saying, and these are the reasons why I don't agree. And then the people making that judgment can then decide whether or not there's a breach. Obviously, it is supported with a report, and that report will come from, in this case, it would probably be Jenny. Okay, so, and she would be making a judgment not on the basis anything subjective. She'd be making a judgment based on the information that's in front of her. It's just unfortunate you only get half the story, and we all know that there's two sides to every story. So but that is what I would do as a procedure, unless anybody objected to it. Yes, Sally.
Is the failure to respond itself a breach of the code?
Yeah, well, you can go on forever, can't you? Because if he refuses to respond, okay, we're then faced with the situation where he or she, if they refuse to respond to the judgment, okay, at least we can publish it, right? And they can come back, and then they can argue the toss in the paper if they want to, and then we may decide there's another breach, and it goes on forever like that. So it's disappointing, really, because I would hope that if they've done something that other people think is unreasonable, and we're not making a judgment here based on what the people ask. You see, my concern in this is that there will be people that will make allegations of some sort for we to get to this point, okay? And I'd really like to know what that person feels about those allegations. But unfortunately, and because there is always two sides to a story, and if they choose not to, you can only follow the evidence being given by the people who are making a statement.
I guess the question behind the question is, should we as a committee be proposing that there is a cut-off point by which, if you don't respond, having tried all these various methods, that are automatically a complaint, if you like, is raised against you for specifically non-response, because that then itself would be something that would be published?
Yeah,
Otherwise, we have.
yeah,
I mean, we know we have
no,
no team, we're limited
I
team.
do understand that. We don't have a lot of complaints. Okay, if we were like the court system where it was all backed up, we'd have to come up with another way of solving it. But I agree with you, it does seem unsatisfactory, but I think in this case, the more opportunities we give somebody to put their position, and the fact that we make it clear to if they have a ruling party that they're in a party, if we make that clear to those people, they then can give us what they believe to be, even if he wants to speak to his party and give his evidence through his party. That I wouldn't object to that, to be quite honest. If he wanted a written statement, and that's what I don't understand. I know we may feel aggrieved about things, and we all get parking tickets and things like that, and go damn and blast it. But if we really think that we have a case to answer, we'd be foolish not to go online and make plead that you don't believe that you've committed the infringement. So I don't know. I just don't understand it, to be honest. Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is actually.
It is.
It is.
And then when we look at it, do we take into account their previous record, or do we, in a court of law, that one episode as seen as separate
No, we can only judge them on the allegation that's presented.
and not their past history?
No.
Okay.
And you wouldn't want to, because natural justice would dictate that you can't judge a person's action by what they've done in the past. They may have found the road to Damascus.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions on those? Okay, thank you. Right, we now move on to the annual standards committee report. Is there anything in there anybody would like to add, change? Approve?
One very small thing, on page 22, just above where it says 8.0, the committee agreed to represent the recommendations and to refer the matter to the Constitutional Review Working Group and full council. Would it be possible to add a sentence to that to say, and it was always accepted and it went through council? Because that's what's actually happened.
Yes, that's not a problem. Is everybody comfortable with that? Right, okay. So, any other comments? God, we've got a flight there. Okay. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to add to the agenda or speak about? Any other business they feel needs to be spoken about? No, I can't see any hands. Well, thank you very much for attending. Not sure to say sorry it's so short, or well done it's so short. Depends on where you're coming from, I guess. All right, thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.